I'll start with a question, but first I'll ask the question so that the panelists, they can think about the answer. And then I would request Mr. Bhutani to tell a little bit about himself because we didn't get the time. He's an awardee. And I've been a journalist for almost about 3 decades, and I have had the opportunity to work within the system also. I was media advisor to one of the union cabinet ministers for 2 years. So I have had the opportunity to be on this side of the fence and that side of the fence also. See, my question is that there is a general perception in, before we come to what, there are a lot of good things which bureaucracy has done, which bureaucracy has been doing. But the general perception in common Indian people is that basically bureaucracy is a kind of a, it's a bunch of, very elitist people. The district collector, he is the my bap, of the whole district. And I'm talking about this is an initial position which the bureaucrats get. And nothing moves without him. And we have districts which have population or which are bigger basically in areas which are bigger than, several countries also, several even European countries. And whatever, and this is, I'm not saying that bureaucracy is like that, but that is the general perception that a common man on the street cannot approach a district collector. A common man on the street cannot approach a joint secretary to the government of India. So, and within the bureaucracy also, there is an elitist system. This is a general perception, what I'm saying. So the panelists would, I think, I'm sure, would help in resolving this dilemma of image. You have IAS, Indian Administrative Service, you have Indian Police Service, you have Indian Foreign Service, and you have Indian Revenue Service. So these are some of the so-called elitist services which come through, the UPSC. And then there are some other services. And within the bureaucracy also, there is always a, turf war or a power struggle between, generally, except the IAS officers, the rest of the civil servants. So they have a huge complaint that, the IAS, they protect each other, they promote each other, and they don't allow, the other services people to grow to important positions. So these are the general perceptions. I'm not saying whether they are correct or not. And I would stop at that. And then first I would request Mr. Bhutani to say a little bit about himself, and then we'll move on to the discussion.
I'm honored and humbled by the award that is, I wanted to share that. It came as a surprise to me that when I was contacted by the organizers, as a, I would say, true to the traditions of bureaucracy, we are silent workers, we don't hanker for awards or run after these awards. I am today reminded of my entire team in the Ministry of Agriculture, which labored hard to put the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana in place. It was first launched in 2016, looking into talking to everybody possible on the earth, including all the bankers, private insurance companies, public insurance companies, Reserve Bank of India, self-help groups, common service centers, trying to create a, I would say, product which is easily understandable, affordable, as well as gives a comprehensive risk coverage to the farmers. We have learned as we moved along. In last 7 years, 3 major, I would say, changes in the scheme because we have learned and changed the scheme as per the requirement of the day. Today I am thank my team, which has actually the award goes collective effort of all the people who worked with me, stood by me, and we worked as a team to put this product on the ground. In fact, today we celebrating the synergy between bureaucracy and corporate world. And I am the first-hand witness of what we can do when we synergize, when we work together. And I thank the organizers for giving me the award. And I'm sure that in days to come, we can do wonders if we collaborate. Coming to the question by the moderator, I would say there have been instances where people would be thinking of my, but those days are over. Those are totally gone long time back. In fact, today's day of social media, internet, a lot of awareness there among masses as well, in fact. And I would say even today's collectors are much better organized, much better, I would say, aware, and they connect with the masses much better than what was in our times. The digitization process of variety of schemes has done away with discretion to a great extent. I would say e-office in most of the states is a pointer that you can't change note sheets. What you have written is final. You can't just delete it or alter it. And the incremental, I would say, process of improvement across various initiatives of the state government or the central government is there for all of us to see. In fact, one of the biggest schemes in the country, be it the Jan Arogya Yojana of the Health Ministry or the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, the income support scheme of the Agriculture Ministry, are pointers where money goes seamlessly into accounts of millions of accounts of farmers, no questions asked, no applications, you just formulate and set things right, give these relevant set of documents, and you're good to go for years together. So those days of my bap are over, I would say. Still, and then the other thing is, Government of India is mindful of the fact that some districts are performing less than the others. The aspirational district program was launched precisely for this activity, to check and ensure that they could be handheld and brought at the level perhaps better. In fact, some districts have gone much beyond the average or the better performing districts. So I would say things are changing. People will not take your, I would say, Bada Sahab attitude lying down today. You will be killed by the media and the social media, I would say, space, and you have to perform. Today, those days of just sitting back in office, relaxing and not performing are over. We have seen the transition in our times. So I would say it's not correct to say that things, this type of attitude exists. Might be existing in some pockets here and there, but things have changed substantially. That is my point I want to make. Thank you.
Quraishi sir, I'll ask two questions. One is to you and one is to our next panelist. So, मैं इसलिए भी इस तरीके से पूछ रहा हूँ कि एकदम से स्टम्प करने वाली चीज़ नहीं होनी चाहिए. Everybody should get time to think over it. Quraishi sir, you have been you have headed the election commission. You have been part of the government in senior positions. ये bureaucracy है क्या? मतलब how do we define actually bureaucracy in India? Whether it is only the people who are coming through UPSC, or whether you are also talking about the mid-level administrative staff or the clerical staff also, because technically speaking anybody who is working for the government is considered to be part of the bureaucracy. But effectively, because before it's like an elephant in the room, and now especially with a lot of technocrats who are making a lateral entry. And I'm also asking this question in context of, because there's a lot of synergy, as Bhutani Sahab said, that between corporate sector and the government also, and it's going to get increased. And as the Prime Minister, current Prime Minister has also said, maximum governance and minimum government. So in this whole context, if you can, क्या ये जो technocrats हैं, do we consider them who are coming on contract? Basically, do we consider them to be part of the bureaucracy? And does actually the policy makers, the IAS officers or the people who have come from UPSC, do they consider them to be part of the bureaucracy?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think everybody who works for the government is part of bureaucracy. These services, IAS, IPS and other services are superior bureaucracy, but they're all bureaucracy. And secondly, the bureaucrats are looked down upon. They're treated with a bit of contempt by the private sector. But the same private sector who is making fun of the bureaucrat is very happy to display on his in his office his approval or the license given by the Undersecretary, approved by Government of India. When you see advertisement, this developer, big developer, something approved by the government, then the government becomes suddenly important. The same Undersecretary, section officer becomes important. Now, I would like to say that our bureaucracy is world class. And I'll give you just one example from my latest experience, which was in the election. How many of you know the size of the election team which conducts the election? 12 million people is our staff, and all bureaucracy. When we go abroad, lots of people say, how can bureaucracy give a neutral, fair election? My answer is, the only bureaucracy can give a free and fair election. They are the only guys we trust. And there is a practical reason also. Because if we hire people from outside and volunteers and they do all kinds of frauds, we can file FIR, we chase them for the rest of the year. But government servants, we have them by the neck for the next 30 years. If a DM or SP or somebody who doesn't conduct the elections well, or he misbehaves, We have him by the neck for the next 30 years. We can ruin his career, which is why our power over the bureaucracy, we have changed Chief Secretary, Home Secretary, DGP, not to talk of DM and SP, on the basis of our perception, on the basis of complaint, that they are not neutral. Neutrality is totally non-negotiable. It happened in the case of UP, for instance. All three, the top guys I mentioned, it happened that we changed them all there because the opposition party brought us a CD where the chief minister attended, the chief secretary attended a chief minister's meeting, and he said, "इतना अच्छा chief minister हमने नहीं देखा." तो हमने कहा आपको चीफ मिनिस्टर से इतना प्यार है, जाके उसकी सर्विस सेवा कीजिए, हमें दूसरा चीफ सेक्रेटरी चाहिए. आधे घंटे में we had another chief secretary, because perception of neutrality, even more than actual neutrality, that's very important and totally non-negotiable. So same bureaucracy which conducts a zero error election every time, the biggest management event of the world, forget about the biggest election of the world, what we conduct is the biggest management event of the world. And how we are able to do it? Because we have, number one, we know them all. We are from the same tribe. It takes a thief to catch a thief. We know them all. So if there is a corrupt officer, corrupt DM, we know him. And we isolate him. We have a dossier. The moment we come into model code is enforced, you would notice, if you read last week's the newspapers, how many officers were transferred the same night? Because we had them on our radar, and dishonest, partisan, not acceptable. And once they are with us, we trust them totally. And I'll give you one example. Once, Prakash Singh Badal, the senior most leader, threatened our CEO, Kusumji Sidhu, some of us may remember, look, you are working very strictly against us on the strength of the election commission. After the election is over, you will come back to the cadre and I'll see you. I wrote a stinker to Mr. Badal, look, you are threatening our election officer and these are the violations that you have done and the consequences will be very serious. It was the headline of all newspapers the next day. Model code, no punishment. The only punishment we could have given was to give him a warning to be careful in future, for which we will be called toothless. But our toothless model code has this effect. Same day he issued a profuse apology, which became the headline of the next day. So the fact that, and the third day I got a phone call from an MP who said that Mr. Badal wants to come home to my house. I used to live on Akbar Road. My first reaction was, ये मुझे पीटने पाटने तो नहीं आ रहा है, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा नहीं आपसे माफ़ी मांगने आना चाहते हैं. हमने कहा नहीं, हमने जो कहना था वो कह दिया, उन्होंने जो apology करनी थी वो कर दी. The chapter is closed. We are in the middle of election. We have to move on. Although बड़ा अच्छा रहता, मैं उनको बुलाता, चाय पिलाता और ड्राइंग रूम में कन्वर्सेशन में ब्रैग करता कि मुझे मिलने बादल साहब आए. No, that's not the way we work. So we work very professionally. I'll just finish in one or two sentences. There was one journalist, and like all journalists, who thought he knew everything, and we are stupid guys. So, Quraishi साहब ये क्या होता है, वो क्या होता है. मैंने कहा बेटा तुम्हें पता कुछ नहीं है, तुम जरा जाके देखो हम लोग करते क्या हैं. उसी डीएम का जिसका इन्होंने वो जिक्र किया, तो नोएडा में वो रहते थे, नोएडा में हमने उनके डीएम के विजिट करा दिया. तो वहाँ जाके उसने he came back a changed man. And he wrote a 3-page article in Governance Now. There used to be he says, how little do we know about the election system? We only know the politicians, the defectors, but the team which works for it and how professionally, and after superlatives of all kinds, he says, I have come to the conclusion that Election Commission is the most self-effacing organization, and India's election an undocumented wonder. Then the same guy, 3 days later, I was doing a review of a UP election on video conference for the first time we were trying. So I sent him a message. I'll in fact tell his name. हमारे college का ये Rohit Bansal, brilliant guy otherwise, because now he's a changed man, converted man. So therefore I can mention. So then I say, if you are around, we are doing a video conference of our DMs. come and see. He says, I'm 20 minutes away. I said, yeah, our meeting is half an hour away. He came, we gave him two-page review paper. He just sat quiet for 2 hours. And what he wrote, it is mentioned in my book called An Undocumented Wonder, The Making of the Great Indian Election. And he described everything which we were saying routinely. And it was every one line that we were all uttering was exciting for him. And he says, I wish it could be televised on the national television for the confidence of the nation. How professional, how precise that these people are. All bureaucrats, mind you. So, and when I wrote my book, I took his permission to use the word an undocumented wonder for the title of my book. So, and the fact that people don't know anything about it. Finally, I will end on this. You know, the technocrat generalist dilemma. From the day I joined service, IAS 53 years ago. So this has been the debate, an old ongoing debate already then. Now, there was a reason why the British wanted liberal arts only to be eligible for this. And I'll give you one example. I was chief administrator as resident commissioner of Haryana Pavilion. And under me was an IAS officer who was an engineer. So I had hired an artist called Naresh Kapuria on the recommendation of Mrs. Shri Dharani of Triveni Kala Sangam. He was a junior clerk there, but very creative. She said, he will do a wonderful job. And we got a gold medal. One day the guy came crying. He says, sir, मैं इनके साथ काम नहीं कर सकता. मैंने कहा, क्यों नहीं कर सकते? कहने लगे, आप मुझको लाए थे आर्टिस्ट, ये मुझको कारपेंटर समझ के मेरी हर चीज़ को फुटे से नाप रहा है. So I called that gentleman and I gave him a lecture and he acknowledges till today, sir, your lecture changed my life. I said, you have to have a bigger picture. Once we had hired for another exhibition in Kamagata Maru, where our artist was M.F. Hussain. The query from the finance department, did you take quotation? 50 rupees per square feet, did you invite quotation? अब आप उसको कैसे बताएं? So, you know, officer-like attitude and bureaucratic attitude, they are different. So, technocrat knows a lot, more and more of less and less. Whereas a generalist knows a little bit of everything, and therefore, I feel that if it is considered superior service, you should not grudge it. Finally, why is it that IAS is grudged by other services? There is a common exam. Suppose there is a 100-meter race. Somebody comes first and he gets a gold medal. The number one, the guy who came second, you wouldn't even know the name. So he says, मैं भी तो दौड़ा था, मुझको बराबरी क्यों नहीं? They talk of equality. What equality? What for? You competed, you did not make it. You lose by 1 mark, half a mark, but you lost. The guy who won, you cannot grudge him for the rest of his life. It was open to everybody. Therefore, you have to understand that bureaucracy actually should not be undermined. This bureaucracy is something which we should be proud of, and we are acknowledged worldwide for just one activity, election alone. Thank you.
भूपेश जी, आखिरी सवाल पूछेंगे, बिकॉज समय कम है. मेरा पैनल सबसे पहले था, इन्होंने बाद में कर दिया, ठीक है ना? तो anyway, see, you are a young officer, and the common grudge is, there is a common dilemma. The private sector says, you know, that there are too many checks and balances when they work with you, especially on innovative projects, and bureaucracy is too slow. And people who are manning the bureaucracy, they want to put all the checks and balances, no? Because it is after all public money also. और बाद में फिर वैसे भी जो है CAG भी बैठता ही है. So you have to be, and especially post this RTI regime, I think जो है the challenges are much more. So how do you tackle this? Because you deal with technical education, I believe you must be working very closely with the private sector, and you are a young officer. You have certain ideas also. So how do you see this? How do you find the balance?
So thank you for your question. First of all, I would like to draw your attention towards what Mahatma Gandhi viewed bureaucracy is. He thought that bureaucrats or bureaucracy is the custodian of the public goods. So that is the role which was defined after the independence. Before independence, the role was different. After independence, how we took birth, it was different. And now again we are in a transitioning phase. So now the role after 1991 post-reforms is totally different. So, and bureaucracy, I think, it sits in the middle. How private sector views, what are their goals, what are the aspirations of the people, and how the political system views it. So, I feel that bureaucracy is sitting somewhere in the middle, trying to act as a glue, trying to take everybody together towards a common goal. I think that is the role what bureaucracy is having right now. And drawing from what Mishra sir also talked about and what Quraishi sir was talking about, that we have achieved so much. It is, I think, but negatively the role of the bureaucracy has been viewed by a lot of people, but we have achieved so much because of a strong bureaucracy who have been able to transition. And sometimes I hear the private sector friends and people talking about how inflexible, how slow the bureaucracy is. But I would strongly refute with this, because I see bureaucracy is the most adaptable. The way the bureaucracy has responded to the new challenges, to the new regimes, to the new aspirations of the people, which are changing every year, or maybe even earlier. So I feel that now bureaucracy has been very nimble-footed, it has been very adaptive, and I feel it is the young officers, I see the younger generation, when I interact with them, they are far more technology savvy, they are far more aware of their roles within the public, they are far more adaptive. So I feel it's a good, we are in a good place.
So with this we'll end the discussion and thank you very much for patiently listening. एक बात मैं कह सकता हूँ कि ब्यूरोक्रेसी को डिफेंड करने के मामले में सारे ब्यूरोक्रेट सेम पेज पर हैं. So I'll end with that.